Alright, be honest. How many of us were convincing our parents back in the day to let us play video games for a little longer, trying to tell them that it somehow boosted our cognitive abilities and whatnot? Well, turns out it might not be so true after all. It seems like the latest study finds that gaming time has absolutely no link with the level of well-being. Let's dive into the video and find out why. First off, let's take a look at what the research was actually about. Alright, so basically, the study involved 39,000 enthusiastic video gamers who were more than happy to do what they love most and also benefit the research community. But here's the catch. Turns out that researchers found little to no evidence that the time spent playing video games actually impacts our well-being. Here are the facts. Now, the average player is gonna have to play at least 10 hours more than usual even to notice the slightest difference. And the reasons for playing video games? Yeah, they seem like they were the main deal after all. That's right. And that makes sense because how do you even measure well-being? Of course, it depends on emotional factors like how satisfied you are with your life, or what is the level of emotions that you feel. Are you happy, angry, sad, or frustrated? All of that is what actually determines your well-being. Having said that, the results actually contradict the 2020 study. Yep, and the best part is that both studies were conducted by the same department at the Oxford Internet Institute. With that said, the previous study actually involved a much smaller group of gamers, and its results show that those who played video games for a longer time were actually much happier. Put your hands up if you're a gamer who can relate. Now, Professor Andrew Przybylski worked on both studies, so we're gonna count on his opinion here. In fact, he says that it's pretty much common sense that if you got more free time to play video games, you're obviously a happier person, and we couldn't agree more. But here's the thing, while we're usually debating whether video games are good or bad for us, the latest study got pretty conclusive evidence that no matter how much you play, it's not really gonna have the biggest impact on your well-being. In fact, you'll hardly notice any difference. One thing though that researchers added was that gamers were playing video games because they wanted to, not because they absolutely had to, so they tend to feel better. But that isn't some hardcore evidence that we'd end the study with. In fact, a bunch of tech companies decided to jump in and contribute to the research, and we're talking about Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, definitely some of our favorites. The companies provided 6 weeks of data, of course, with the player's consent, from games like Animal Crossing, New Horizons, EVE Online, Apex Legends, Gran Turismo Sport, Forza Horizon 4, and The Crew 2. And during the time of 6 weeks, only one player dropped out of the study. So overall, the study kinda echoes the opinion of a pretty large number of players around the world. Now, let's talk about the most important factor here, which is mental health. If you're a gamer, imagine this. In China, children are allowed to play video games for no more than 1 hour every day. And that's not all. The 1 hour privilege is only there for Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. That's it. Now, that's for parents who think playing video games for hours is destructive for their child's well-being and mental health. And while we debunked that myth about well-being with the latest study, a bunch of gamers around the world also say that playing video games actually helps with their mental health. And Mike Daly, the guy who created Lemmings, the legendary Grand Theft Auto, said that the benefits varied. In fact, he says that he's not really sure that it's something you can measure with a single well-being state. If anything, it's just like everything else in life. Good or bad, you need to keep a balance. So spend 24 hours a day playing video games, and we're gonna tell you, nope, that's bad for your health. But spend 24 hours a day eating and working out, and that isn't so great for your health either. So, like we mentioned earlier, it's always about keeping a balance. And let's see what George Osborne had to say. For context, he's the head of campaigns and communication for Yuki, which is basically the trade body for UK games. In fact, he's also a key member of the Games Aid and Special Effect gaming charities. Anyway, he made a Twitter thread with a bunch of pretty accurate observations. First off, Osborne also agrees that gaming has little to no impact on our well-being. So whatever positive or negative outcomes you're giving video games credit for, they're just the result of something else that's going on in your life. In fact, he thinks that this study could actually be big news and debunk any future myths coming out about how video games could negatively impact people, especially children. So just consider it a rebuttal towards the gaming disorder that people, for some reason, see as a mental health condition. Moving on, in other related news, Logitech announces a dedicated cloud gaming handheld that supports more than just Xbox cloud gaming. Alright, so Logitech G is working with Tencent Games, and it won't be too long till we actually see the dedicated cloud gaming handheld. In fact, they're probably going to launch it by the end of this year. Now, the new hardware will be designed specifically for cloud gaming services and offer a dedicated device with controls, instead of the usual cases you're used to that you gotta attach to your phone. In fact, the cloud gaming handheld will also support Xbox Cloud Gaming and NVIDIA's GeForce Now service. Right now, Logitech and Tencent are just teasing releasing the device, and there's no formal mention of a release date, pricing, or even what it'll look like. And they're both leaning in towards their specialties, which means that Logitech's obviously going to be leaning on its experience building PC and console gaming accessories that we love, while Tencent's going to be more of an operations partner. Ujesh Desai, the general manager of Logitech G, says that as one of the leading global platforms for game development, publishing, and operations, Tencent Games has been at the top of the line for innovation, and that's exactly why Logitech partnered with them. And as someone who grew up playing video games, Desai thinks that the idea of being able to stream and play AAA games anywhere you want, whenever you want, is absolutely exciting, and it truly is. The new cloud gaming handheld is also going to have its very own dedicated website where you can sign up for some updates and stuff. So watch out for the next few months before the launch, because we're definitely going to get some extra information then. Up next, Sony isn't going to like this hilariously awful God of War ripoff on Xbox. Before we start, head to the Xbox store and play it for $4 while you still can. Alright, so that's definitely a pretty bold ripoff of the game, to say the very least. And if you want to check it out firsthand, you should think fast before Sony decides to lay down the banhammer. Honestly, just check out a bunch of playthroughs on YouTube, and you'll see that it's definitely bad. But it's the kind of bad that has a weird, alluring power to make you want to dig in deeper. Like, why aren't there any sounds? Why aren't Kratos fighting Resident Evil monsters? Or in fact, why is he even referred to as the Warning God? You're definitely gonna have a bunch of questions at the end, for sure. Even we're confused because the description is gonna go on to suggest that you need to kill them all with your gun, but you're just mostly gonna see Kratos with his faithful axe. And War God's Zeus of Child seems to be part of the Xbox Creators Collection, which means that it didn't really go through the long process of certification and approval that usually filters out such games before you can even see them on the Xbox Store. Anyway, it still seems like a miracle that it existed long enough for people to play the game and post a few playthroughs. But let's see how long that lasts. Finally, Game Pass loses one of its best games and gets one of Ubisoft's worst. First off, in what world is swapping Boyfriend Dungeon for Ghost Recon Wildlands even close to a fair trade? On the one hand, Game Pass is losing an amazing dungeon crawler that's gonna say things about existence of modern life. And on the other hand, at least it's getting one of the most calloused Ubisoft map games we've seen recently, despite the messy, bad faith controversy that pretty much defined Boyfriend Dungeon's release last summer. It's still one of the most engaging dungeon crawlers you're gonna see. Like, you date people who can transform into weapons and actually use the very same weapons to battle the physical manifestations of your anxieties in asymmetric combat. Honestly, it's a bummer to see it leave. But oh well, that's a wrap for this video. Do you think video games have no impact on our well-being? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.